Well, good afternoon. Welcome back to another Saturday on ATR Media, our Black Media Network on the Watchdogs. We have a great conversation today. I find it unfortunate that we have this conversation, but then we're going to talk about violence, and we're going to look at it from a national to a regional to a local to a state level, right? And so I really think this is important as we see senseless violence every day. And as a matter of fact, this morning, a 6-year-old girl was killed in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And so it's time that we bring these issues to the table and stop ignoring them and stop waiting on our city elected officials for those who don't really attend to the problem. We have some who do, but we'll talk about that today. We have a great panel of people today, some who are here and some who will join us, and I'll introduce our panel today, and we will jump right into a conversation. So we have with us today Alderwoman Kesha Gibson-Carter of Savannah, Georgia. Alderwoman Gibson-Carter joins us. Oh, there you are, looking great. She is the
Hello,
Alderwoman at large
Savannah.
for Post One in Savannah. She brings to us nonprofit experience, local government experience, and why she matters today is because she's a mother, right? And that we're seeing a lot of young people being killed. She's a wife and she's a community leader. She's laser focused on these issues, and you'll hear why in a moment. And most importantly, she cares about the issue. And so we welcome her today. We have
Thank
John McMasters, who is from Los Angeles, California, a University of California graduate who moved to Savannah in 1993 and assumed the role of county commissioner in 2002. He is one of the founders of Better Savannah, and focused on the influence of public policy. And his interest lies in the communalistic approach when we look at local governmental actions. And so we welcome John today.
Thank you.
And we have someone I know very closely in Athens, Clarke County. And one of the reasons why I'm really excited to have Tiffany today, Tiffany Taylor, is because she saw this very issue happening in her community, more importantly with young black males, and so she got tired of it and she created action around Mothers of Black Sons, MOBS, which is a nonprofit to support the success and advancement of young black males in the community. She's currently running for District 3 County Commission seat in Athens, Clarke County, and is the mother also of 4 sons, 1 daughter. And her issues lie in affordable housing, livable wages, and youth development. And so we're really excited to have you all today. And so if I could begin with this overall question, and I would love to hear all of you respond to this. Why does this issue of violence matter to you? And we'll start with Tiffany.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for that introduction. You made me sound so important.
Well, you are
Um,
important.
well, this issue of violence is really important to me because as a mother of 5 children, as well as an aunt to 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl, it's important that we educate our children about violence is because it's so easy to get into. It's so easy to get into trouble with violence because in my community, which is one of the impoverished communities here in Athens, Georgia, we see a lot of crime. That's kind of like the atmosphere here in Athens, Georgia. It's really important to me because I'm just so sick and tired of us losing our youth to violence and them being educated on the consequences of being involved with violent crimes and gun use and gang activity. So it's very important to me because I want to make it better, not only for my children but for my children's children, right? So that's why it's important to me.
Alderwoman Gibson-Carter, if you could chime in, why does this issue, why does it matter to you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, when it comes to gun violence, sexual violence, any form of violence, we recognize that we are our brother's keepers. And the issues related to gun violence for me right now, as we approach this topic, we know what's going on in our city. It's a public health issue, right? So oftentimes people are dismissive of issues related to street crime and gun violence because they feel as if it's just situational. Well, that doesn't make it okay because someone is a part of violent intentional injuries, right? Um, we should all be concerned because bullets don't have names. And when we have 13, 14, and 15-year-olds with high powered rifles or guns, whatever uh, these weapons they use are, uh, riddling bullets at homes and cars at will without regard to a target, we recognize that we have a public health issue. And beyond that, just personally, I care about people. I care about those who are a part of that world, and who feel like they don't have a hope or a care in the world. And so they give themselves up to the streets and to the creed of that culture. And I care about those who would be their victims. So um, we have to have a holistic approach. We know that crime and gun violence is an issue across the nation right now. But we have to tackle these issues community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, state by state. And so, where Savannah, Georgia is concerned, from where I'm sitting, I do take a personal responsibility as a leader in this community and say it is the government's responsibility because maybe not in Athens, Clark County, or maybe not in Atlanta, maybe not in Jacksonville, maybe not in Washington, D.C., but here in Savannah, we know that a great deal of the criminal element that run rampant in our community, uh, in large part, is because of failed policies from our elected officials. It's because of those policies, programs, and activities that we have not uh, implemented, we have not presented, we have not adopted. And so while there are a litany of things we will discuss today in terms of what can be done, we are not doing any of it here in Savannah.
Got it.
Okay, John.
Well, first, thanks for including me in this important conversation. Um, Violence, and I'm going to use a expanded notion of violence, it just in the sense of crime, uh, much of which is violent and some of it not as violent, um, is a detriment to our quality of life, whether you're living in a Tony neighborhood or a less Tony neighborhood. Citizens, people, part of the community, the members need a certain level of safety to enjoy their lives. And violence and crime interrupt that and disturb that sense of place, continuity, comfort, happiness. So Kesha's absolutely correct. It is a public health issue. It's also an economic strain because the cost of addressing public safety and crime is borne by the whole community. So, yeah, the nature of it is multifaceted, and I'm sure we're going to have a chance to talk, more about policy and legislating ways and things that we can do to reduce it and protect our happiness and the sense of community.
Awesome. If I could share this image, John, that you shared with me, this is the chamber circle, and if we could dialogue about this piece to begin with, and Kesha, I'm not sure if you can see it, but John, if you could tell us more about how this applies to the conversation and help us understand this diagram.
Sure. This is sort of tangential to the primary topic of violent crime, but just let's look at it in a limited policy sense, and this happens to pertain specifically to hospitality and tourism. But this sort of dynamic can be easily modeled or applied to a police department or a Parks and Recreation's perspective, to many things and aspects of government. But basically, in the hospitality tourism context here in Savannah, a number of years ago, I tried to explain to someone how policy is made. Policy is the legislative act of a governing body, in this case, the city of Savannah. So, not to belabor this, but you'll see in the center there are 4 concentric circles. The top purple one being the Chamber of Commerce, and going over to the right, Visit Savannah, which is a subset of the Chamber of Commerce. And at the bottom is the Tourism Advisory Committee. And then coming up, and that's a city body. And then the 4th circle is the Tourism Leadership Council, which is a 503c professional organization to look after the hospitality industry's interests. At the very bottom, you'll see 2 overlapping circles. The first one, the blue one, being the mayor and city council, of which Kesha is a member, and which at a county combined consolidated city, Tiffany hopes to join. And then on the right, in the salmon colored circle, is the city manager, because we have a city manager form of government. Anyway, to conclude, what this diagram, and maybe you can post this as a link in your show, RG, that other people can study it more closely and read the influences in the traffic diagram here. But basically, public policy here should be the responsibility of the mayor and council, and that's that intersection between those two at the bottom. But it is influenced most heavily by the industry. So you have an industry regulating themselves for all intents and purposes, and that's not a healthy outcome. And whether that's a police department or, again, a Parks and Recreations department, I think it helps us understand how policy is divined and then implemented. So maybe that's too little, probably too much, but that's what that diagram's all about.
Right. And so we put it into context, like let's say if we place this in Atlanta, we have a similar effect, except a few of the circles might change to maybe being, developing a New York style city or attractions or what have you. You take it at the county, it could be around how do we build that energy around Georgia football. But this can be applied. We just change a few of the circles, is what I'm assuming.
Sure. There's always a modus operandi or flight path or pattern process that creates policy. And if we don't understand that policy, Robert, we're just uncomfortable and clueless as to how things happen and how things are either advanced or detracted from in our community. So I urge people to dedicate some time to understanding how policy happens.
And so, if we tie this together, Alderwoman Gibson-Carter, policy ends up driving a number of things, right? And so we get to thinking back to this issue of violent crime and crime in general. You have policies that allow you to be proactive as a council and as a leader and as an alderwoman. And you have policies that create more issues. And in your perspective, if you can tell us a little bit about that from your lens as a sitting alderwoman here in Savannah.
Well, and that's the one thing we have been doing, a few of us anyway, Alderwoman Miller Blakely and Bryant Lanier, in our work, we do a lot of educating the public, informing the public. And so one of the things we have been doing as of late is acknowledging to the public that when we talk about change, when we talk about things that we need in our city and certain issues or changes that our citizens want, we first start the conversation in saying we have to discuss policies, because nothing changed without a policy. We can have political rhetoric and hot air all day long, talk about what we are doing. We can talk about um, affordable housing. We can talk about crime reduction. We can talk about forced displacement. But until we put forth policies that will provide for those changes, that will provide for meeting those needs, it won't happen. And so politicians will hide behind that rhetoric without educating the public and acknowledging that if we want communities where we are not experiencing gentrification and forced displacement, why aren't we putting forth inclusionary zoning policies? Why aren't we enacting an impact fee policy if we are serious about protecting our communities? Why are we not looking at personnel policies with our police department? Right now, our council is not even meeting to discuss personnel issues or personnel policies, because I'll tell you that our number one issue with crime in our city has to do with leadership, both within our city administration as well as in our police department. And if we cannot meet as a group and discuss policy initiatives and changes we need to make, that policies that match those changes, it just simply won't happen.
Now, and Tiffany, if we could go to you, you're looking at this from a different lens, right? So you're hearing, all these policies that impact the safety and the inequities and all these things going on, and they're policies like the ones on the books now, which I totally disagree with. For example, you have a criminal justice system that allows Buddy Carter to prescribe opioids. We have a crisis, but that's the same criminal justice system that says black men who have to create small businesses around drug activity get placed in jail. So all things said, Tiffany, you're a mom, right? You're looking at this from a very different lens how you've grown up and seen family and friends and neighbors. How do you react to that? What's your reaction?
My reaction, my reaction towards it is basically the reason why I'm running to have a say so into the policies that's put in place here in Athens. When my son was in third grade, they told me that he wasn't reading on a third grade level. The teacher told me this is when they began building prisons for children, males who aren't reading on grade level. They start building prisons, which is the pipeline to prison, the prison pipeline. I'm sorry. And so as a mom, it makes me go harder. It makes me sit at the table, want to sit at the table. It makes me want to get out and inform everyone, because we lose from a lack of knowledge. A lot of my residents don't really know the policies here in Athens, but they are affected by it when they stand up in court, when they're pulled over by the police, when they're, we live in a college town. So there are a lot of ordinance that, target us, and we don't know until it's too late. And so being vigilant, being educated is my way of going about it now, because I was just angry. I was just like, it does affect us, but it doesn't matter. And a lot of people in my community have that same thought process. Like, it doesn't matter what the policies are. It doesn't matter if we get policy changes, because it doesn't affect us anywhere. They're still going to come into our neighborhoods and gentrify us, push us out. And it's just about being educated. It's about being vigilant. So that's my mission. I want to educate everyone around me so that we can stand strong in numbers.
And one of the questions, John, I asked all of our panelists to send questions, and John sent this question. I'm going to expand it a little bit, if I would, and and have our Alderwoman Kesha Gibson-Carter respond to this, and then we'll kind of go around and hear others. But what have we done? Are you done publicly to educate citizens about policy inequities? And I'd like to expand that about what have we done to offer education not only around policy inequities, but inequities in general. So we look at systematic pieces that impact all of these things. And so, Alderwoman Kesha Gibson-Carter, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, you're unmuted, but we don't hear you. Now you're muted again. There you are. Now you got to unmute. We can see. Now you unmute. You're hitting the wrong button, I think. Let me unmute you, Silver. Uh-oh. Okay.
Robert, you want me to jump in?
Yeah, if you could jump in on that, John, and when she comes back, yeah.
Well, I wanted to slow us down, if I could, for just a second and walk back to, since this conversation is really and nicely developing towards a discussion on policy. What people, your viewers need to understand is we live in a representative style of government. That means the citizens can't go create policy on their own. We elect people like Tiffany, like Kesha, like myself 20 years ago. We are the legislators. We are the ones who have the power and the authorization to set policy. So, to Tiffany's point, why is it so important for people to pay attention to policy? Because policy is manifest by the people we elect to representatively reflect us in their actions, in their choices, in their votes. So we're not a direct democracy. We're representational. So policy is the tool or the track through which things can happen. For instance, if a city wants to change policy, change an ordinance is just a fancy name for a policy, that the police department is not going to pull over people for taillight infractions or expired tags. That can be manifest through a majority vote of the governing body, be it a county commission or a city council, to inform and direct the policing staff members that this is not something we want to prioritize. Don't stop people exclusively for those things. Just one example of how policy can affect the community and the importance of understanding how that comes to happen. And it comes to happen through this representative body that we've elected. So to Tiffany's point, yeah, you gotta understand it and stick with it.
Yeah. Alderwoman Kesha Gibson-Carter, I don't know if you remember the question, but I definitely am glad that John brought that piece up. I wanted to get your reaction or thoughts before we kind of dived into that a little more.
Yeah, I did. I'm transitioning. Today's the Central Labor Council annual fish fry. So I'm on my way there, and of course we have to be all things to all people all the time. That's what your Alderwoman does. And so y'all bear with me a little bit. I did miss the question, so can you repeat it? I did hear John's comment. However.
Well, I think it'll be more important. If you want to dive into John's comment and react to that or add to, I think that's an important piece that is very, very, very glad he brought that up.
Well, he's exactly right. When we talk about change that's needed in community, people should know that real change starts with policy presentation, legislation, right? And so take, for example, our administration. For whatever reason, before the ink was dry on our commitment to serve without fear, favor, or affection, there was some maneuvering to change the rules of our council. Never in the history of this city, and probably nowhere in the United States, will you find within a local government where it takes a majority of your vote, the majority on your council or your commission, to actually introduce legislation, introduce a policy, introduce something on behalf of your community, where we require change, where we require resources, where we require a certain level of service to increase or decrease. But here in Savannah, it takes a majority on our council, 5 votes, for any idea to even see the light of day. And so that on its face is, as far as I'm concerned, it's a form of voter suppression, because I am not capable now, as the representative of the entire city of Savannah, her over 145,000 constituents, citizens, I can't put forth anything on your behalf because I don't have a majority. And so I'm woman enough to take a L. I'll take a loss. If I put forth something and I don't get a majority of vote to get it passed, we have to accept that. But if I can't even introduce it for consideration,
Right.
how is the community represented? So again, that those changes that we want to see in our city, uh, any level of service that you want increase or decrease, communities, crime. Right now, we have a shortage of police officers in our department, which essentially contributes to the level of crime and criminal element that's happening in Savannah. And what I want people to know is that the issue related to crime in Savannah is not one dimensional. It's not just one thing, right? There
Hmm.
are a multi-causism of issues that have occurred because it has been ignored for so long. So we have issues related to our judicial system. We have issues related to uh, how people are policed. We have issues related to the lack of community policing. We have issues related to the talent that we are recruiting, the talent that we are not retaining. So there are a lot of things that we need right now. And if we, again, cannot address these pieces via a policy perspective, or have a conversation with the council, with our leadership, and say, listen, here's where we are. What are the changes that we can make? We will not achieve that. So I feel like I was a little bit all over the place right there, but I need to
No,
get some of that out.
no. I'm glad you did. One of the things, and I'm going to kind of package it up a little bit with you and John's comment, and lead in a different direction. So, what John was talking about is we have a representative form of government. So we go out, we cast a ballot, and we vote for a particular person that we hope will represent our voice and our issues and our values. And then we hear from Kesha Gibson-Carter. So now I'm elected, but I'm also not given the same rights and access to present policy changes or rules or put things on the agenda that would look at things like public safety, public health, and crime. So if I'm elected by you, I'm here advocating for you, but I'm still restricted and my voice is not heard. Then how do we get the work done? So I'll ask Tiffany and John and Alderwoman. So with that kind of a framework, how do citizens make a change? It's like, okay, so we've done what we're supposed to do. We're seeing all this crime, and we're not getting our officers and law enforcement folks to work together and to prioritize things. How do I get involved as a citizen? I'm tired of it. I've been through it. What do we do?
You can't quit. You can't give up. This work is exhausting. It's exhausting making an attempt to tackle the issues and the problems in our community. And you are absolutely right. We mobilize and we engage every election season, and we ask people to go to the polls and vote. We have voter registration, voter information, voter education. People should vote. You should exercise your civic duty. People died for your right to vote, right? And so these people in record numbers have gone out over the last 5 or 10 years, and people have showed up to the polls like never before. People are mostly energized around issues, and we have had a lot of issues. And so what happens when people feel like they have picked the winner, and the winner they pick makes it into office, and this is a person they champion. They put all of their faith in a person because they don't have the time, the experience, the knowledge. They don't have that. They don't have what it takes to do the work. So we put all of our faith in a person. And what happens when that person we put our faith in fails us? It's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to hold those who we have pledged allegiance and alliances with accountable. But I'm here today to tell you people, listen, we cannot relegate the safety in our community, the harmony in our neighborhoods, and the needs of what we need, the needs of those things we desire for this city. We cannot relegate that to relationship, friendship, or kinship. It doesn't matter your proximity to a person in office. We have to continue to hold those persons accountable. And that includes me as well. And so when our citizens are not holding us accountable, because we're so friendly, we're so acquainted, we go to church together, we work together, we raise kids together, whatever the relationship or the situation is, or that's the first black female, first black male, first whatever. It does not matter. No longer is it okay to just be black and be in office. We cannot do that anymore, right? And so that's what citizens can do. Citizens can hold us accountable. And how do you hold us accountable? You utilize the process. Write letters, send information into our clerk's office, ask for things to be documented and put on public record, come to the city council meetings. Whenever anything is on the agenda, you have a right to speak on it. We just the Weeping Time situation with the Weeping Time property. I think that was probably the most engaged and mobilized our community was since I've been on council. Now we have some neighborhood issues where certain developers make petition for building or dismantling something in the community, and you have residents who will rise up and come to the meetings and let their voices be heard. But we don't have that happening enough. We do not have it happening enough. And so with where we are right now with crime and gun violence, we do not have enough citizens who would stand up and say to the mayor, say to this council. And one of the things we do in Savannah, Georgia, and Chatham County is we let the county off the hook way too much. Right? We bore so much of the responsibility of these issues. Chester Ellis, the county commissioners, they should be held equally as responsible for what we have by way of crime in this city. Savannah is in Chatham County, right? If not more. And then our state legislators, our state representatives, our state senators, we have to have them a part of this conversation as well. We do too much in silos. The Board of Education leadership, right? Because who are these people? Where are they coming from? Most of these young people are products of our public school system. And so we have to have a holistic approach to tackling this issue. It's not just one way, but again, we're not doing anything. So we got to try something.
And before you all respond to that, you might want to respond to my next comment. One of the things that disappoints me in the city of Savannah in particular, and I'm going to drive this, it goes back again to what I just described earlier, and going back to Alderwoman Gibson-Carter and John. You get elected, you vote, you do what you're supposed to do, you put the people in office that you believe are going to value you and be your voice. And we have people like Alderman Dedrick Leggett, who go over there and blow smoke up the tails of a housing project group called Yamacraw Village, right? And you allow that area to be ridden with trash and violence and crime, so you can benefit too off of the regentrification of it. That's the thing that impact that really bothers me, is when we put people in place who we believe will advocate for us and who fail to do so, and they'll tell you all day, "Oh no, I'm not going to get anything out of this." Yeah, well, why would you sell a community, allow it to be crime ridden, And a lot of this has an economic impact. I think someone said that earlier. A lot of this ties to economic impact. The haves will have more, and the have-nots will have none. And we've got to break that. We got to put some barriers there. But again, it's how do we get past that? And what are you all thoughts again to what Alderwoman Gibson-Carter said, and to the idea that you put people in place and you're still sitting out here looking crazy. And John and Tiffany, feel free to jump in on that piece.
Well, I don't want to filibuster. Tiffany, do you want to comment on that? Because I can talk forever.
That's very true. I was speaking with someone here in Athens, Georgia, about that exact same thing. When you have all your trust in the people that you put into office, and then when they get into office, they just totally do what's beneficial for them. Which is why I'm running, because I grew up in the neighborhood that I'm running for, the district that I'm running for. I grew up here. I've, dealt with the poverty. I've lost friends. I've lost family members to the violence here. And so running from a pure place for me, stepping up, because even if I win, lose or draw, it's about my community and making my community better. So even if I don't have a title at the end of this, that does not stop the work that I've been called to do. I have to still do the work. I have to still, show up to town hall meetings. I have to still educate those around me who are illiterate about politics, because I was illiterate about politics. I've always felt like when people come and knock at my door to ask me to vote, they give me these 3 points, and I'm just supposed to vote off of these 3 points. But it's important to get to know not only what they're doing in election time, but what they're doing before election time, what they're doing after election time. Like, where did they come from? I'm a product of Clark County School. So when Alderwoman Kesha said that, it tickled me, because I've been told that before. We don't need any more young people who don't know what they're doing. But in order for us to know what we're doing, it has to take those who have done the work, who know the work, to help us along the way, to change the things around us, so that we can give this same energy to those who's going to come after us, because that's how you change the community. It's from generation to generation. The generation before me pour into me, tell me, the things that I'm going to come up against if I don't see them, and so that's one of the reasons I feel like a lot of people don't get involved. A lot of people don't come out and vote. It's a lot.
Robert, I love Tiffany's passion, but let me push back a little bit, and
and y'all feel free to engage in the conversation. That's what we want to do.
Here are the facts. In the city of Savannah, a normal turnout for a mayoral and council election is about 30% of the registered voters. That's a huge problem. All right. We've talked about how many of those people, that 30%, they vote for their aunts or their kids' coaches or their friends or their friends of friends, and not on the issues. So number one, we have a low voter participation level. That needs to be fixed. Secondly, the 30% that are voting, very few of that 30% really understand the policy ideas and platforms and commitments that candidates are making, just as much as they don't really understand if their current incumbent who is on that ballot how well they've performed. I just want to put out there that Savannah tends to spend infinitely more energy, effort, and attention on the needs of the business community and the business class than it does in the communalistic quality of life considerations that affect neighborhoods and people. And this is a huge problem that can only be addressed by repointing our efforts and our energies through policy. So again, I'm trying to bring policy back into the discussion as our best tool to improve our situations, whether it's crime or opportunities, economic or otherwise. But we've got some basic problems. Low voter turnout is one. Our voter registration levels are incredibly high. I think Savannah might even be close to 90% voter registration, Robert, but yet 25 to 30% is all that turn out to vote. So, I personally, I think we should behave like Australia. In Australia, you have to vote. It's not optional. And if you don't vote, you're assessed a penalty of financial fine for not voting. I know that's a little draconian, but that a middle ground is something I think Arizona and New Mexico toyed around with, and that is they created a lottery so that everyone who voted was automatically entered into a drawing for a lottery cash prize. So it was an incentive. You weren't paying people individually to vote, but you were incentivizing the voting process. So anyway, I'll stop there.
Those incentives, John, I know they'll get a lot of people in Athens to come out and vote the way they play lottery.
Yeah, there's nothing morally or ethically wrong with trying to create and induce a larger voter turnout because it's important.
Absolutely.
I also want to point out too something that Kesha touched on it, and that is when you're elected, she's representing 145,000 citizens. Listen, no elected official is going to satisfy all of their constituents. There is inherent failure and success on any issue. Some people may love her for her position on housing. They may disagree with her on her position with policing. We have to be sober and realistic about what is really the effective range of any elected official. And it's never 100%. It's never 90%, 80%, 70%. I mean, that's why most elections are won or lost by, 4 or 5 points. And that's okay. That's how our system is designed. So enough civics.
No, that's perfect. But I think, you're exactly right. All of this ties back to elections, right? It just does. And one of the things I think we need to look at is a reform. Reform comes through a lot of changes, and those changes come through public policy. How do public policies change? It's up to us as individuals to put people in place who have good sense and good knowledge and will work on things like policy instead of stupid masks, right? It was policy that made masks real or not real, sick or not sick, protect my neighbor or infect them with COVID-19. And so one of the things I want us to kind of, as we close out today, is offer a solution. One of the solutions, and I'm very radical in what I'm about to share, but it's a starting point for this discussion about how do we solve it. One, I agree, public policy. We've got to stop worrying about nonviolent crimes, in my personal opinion. Putting people in jail for tail lights, like you said, John, putting people in jail for marijuana, that's silly. We need to decriminalize marijuana. It is not a gateway drug, and if you really want to know the truth, go and look it up. Get your history around it. It's only criminalized because it came into competition with cotton. When you understand the realities of what hemp can do, from economic development to developing clothing to a number of things, you understand that why brown people brought this to this world, that's why it's possibly decriminalized. Learn your history. Don't let people tell you. The other thing is we got to focus 100% on violent crime. My thing is we need to stop putting people in jail for nonviolent crimes. It is not necessarily a criminal issue that someone might be abusing a substance. It is a public health issue. No one wakes up in the morning saying, "Ooh, I just want to be an alcoholic." That's not what happens. People have real trauma, real issues, that leans more into mental health, other health issues that we need to solve and stop putting on the backs of taxpayers. The other piece is, again, we got to incentivize voting, and so those are just some things I like to start the conversation around. But that's how I believe we start curbing taking that left turn and getting to some real solutions, other than walking through the same hallways of foolishness that we've done just because we've done it that way before.
Well, I'll start, and then I'm going to have to go after this, and I'll just keep listening to you guys. The one thing people can do is engage, get involved in the political process, because not only do we need you, not only should you exercise it just because it's a civic duty, uh, but your engagement matters. And the reason why we are not experiencing the level of change that we could in our community is because people don't feel like they have a place. And John acknowledged that there's a certain level of, I don't know if it was John or Tiffany that talked about the lack of knowledge individuals have about the political process. It's really not that difficult. It's not rocket science.
Oh, now
we
you
do
won't let
deal
me
with
in.
budgets. We do deal with budgets, but it's not that difficult. It's not math, right? It just takes a little bit of time and dedication to understanding the process. And a lot of what happens, Robert, is politicians intentionally and deliberately try to make things difficult and talk over people's head. And that serves as a barrier for individuals because they are oftentimes intimidated by the process or by the jargon that's used. And again, that's why we try to dial our service back and frame it in a narrative where a third grader can understand it. And
Right.
to that point, and John, you can attest to this, there has never been a time
I'm
like
doing it.
now where
I'm just showing
more
to my
people
half
are a
from
part of the political process in Savannah. The social media airways and platforms are just going gangbusters with the amount of
that's
people who
right.
chime in to issues. Can you tell
That's
him to mute
correct.
his phone?
I already did it.
Um,
How
the,
dare
the,
he?
the
How
number
dare he? We're gonna get him.
the number of people who are now engaged, people actually know when our meetings are. They know what times they are. And okay, this is a perfect example. Why is it that we have a city council meeting twice a month, but there are two different times? It's intentional and deliberate, just to confuse people into so people are not engaged. For the longest, we stayed on those. We did our meetings via Zoom, even like when COVID was nearing the end and we could have come back in person. There was a deliberate intent to keep us divided, keep the public away. Um, there are so many tricks of this political system. And John, you can probably do another class on the maneuvering and the manipulation that politicians use and go through to confuse and gaslight the people. And it wasn't until I arrived in this seat and was a part of these platforms that I actually recognized that this is how the people have been misled. And so we are now informing people and giving them information on things that they probably never would have known. You know, they know, that you find out more, you can delve deeply into issues at a workshop. They know the information related to what our charter reads. They know that a majority of vote on our city council is 5. They know who their district representative is and actually know what district they live
Hey,
in.
Robert.
So so
Go
so
ahead.
these are things that are it's a slow process, but it's catching on. It's catching on, and people are starting to get involved. And one of the reasons, John, I feel like a lot of people don't vote or are not turning out like they should, is because we disappoint them as politicians through our
Yeah,
failed policies or
you're
failure
absolutely
to
right.
enact policies. People people get discouraged. But you
Yes.
can't quit, people. You can't quit. You have to engage. You have to vote. And I encourage people to run for office. I think our arrival inspired so many people to run for office, because you know what? We made it look like you can do it, and we are serving from a level, from a place of humility. We are humble in these positions. We are approachable. We make people feel like they can have access to us.
You and your crew
So
gave
that's.
us hope, which many
Mhm.
voters didn't have. Now, you may not have all the results that you had hoped for or we had hoped for, but your mere presence on council as a fresh voice is a start. It's hopeful. It's what we needed, and ultimately we will get the results. But right now we have hope, and that's something we didn't have before.
I agree. And Tiffany, we're talking about solutions. What are some things? I mean, you realize there are needs for solutions. One of those meaning starting a nonprofit and changing a narrative through education and support and advocacy. So as we think about solutions, what are some other things that you might see happening, and how does a general citizen get involved? I mean, you woke up one day and you got tired of seeing the same foolishness. You got tired of educators telling you that your child was this, when actually your child is probably the smartest one in the room, and more challenged, or not challenged, and can probably work at to a great level up here. And so,
Yeah.
what are some solutions that you're seeing, as you kind of navigate this space of being a citizen and hopefully being a public leader?
Personally, we have to check ourselves. Individual check. Like, you have to get tired. You have to get tired of being just bent over a barrel, just feeling like you have no say so. And that's what did it for me. I got tired of feeling like I had no say so. I got tired of things around me changing, and I'm still in the same spot. Everything is changing and I'm not having a say so within the change, even though I am a registered voter and I vote. Um, Things still around me just seem like they weren't involving me or those around me. So I had to do a personal check, a individual check of what are you gonna do? Like, and with everything that John and Kesha said, I've been taking notes. And all of these solutions are great. And just like John said, to have a fresh voice, a regular person who's not a politician, who wasn't, that's not the goal. That wasn't the goal, to be a politician, but to want to be a part of policy changing, to be to want to be educated on the matters around you, are the solutions that's going to get us to where we need to be. And everything that was said was just on point for me.
Yeah. And so we'll reach final comments. I will start with you, Alderwoman Gibson-Carter, because I know you're about to pull up. And when you see Julius,
Yes,
tell him don't do that no more.
I know, right? I just wanted to say to Commissioner Taylor, we're speaking it into existence.
Right.
Alderwoman Blakely often tells candidates, you have to affirm what you want. And so don't say, if I win, say, when I win, ma'am, when I win. When I win,
Absolutely.
I will represent my community. I'm so excited about your commitment to serve, and it does my heart good to see young people stepping up to the plate. I know that serving in any level of government is not easy. It's not reasonable for a lot of people because it doesn't pay a whole bunch, and it takes a lot of people say that this is part time, but this is like full and overtime. So it's more than a part time job. So thank you for stepping up to the plate and serving, John. As always, it's nice to sit at your feet and listen to the wisdom. I want to say that John McMasters has been a great mentor and friend in this work. I don't know that we would be where we are if it were not for the Better Savannah platform, ATR, and the Reverend Dr. Leonard Small.
Yes.
These men champion issues,
Mhm.
and they are stepping up and stepping out on behalf of the community. I said to Chuck Fagan yesterday, neither of them have ever come to me and asked me as a sitting alder person for a favor. I don't think no one's even called me about their trash not being picked up. They simply do this because they love community. I feel like they are justice seekers, and they want to see us living in a community of harmony where all people can have access to their rightful share. So thank you so much, Robert. And Tiffany,
All
best
right, thank
wishes to
you.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank you.
John, will be your final comments, and then Tiffany, your final comment.
Well, thanks. I've enjoyed myself today.
Is John
Kesha
doing
doesn't know it,
this?
but I have a couple of parking
We
tickets I
guess.
could send over to her. Just kidding. The thing that excites me, Robert and Tiffany, is you've got ATR who's doing a really great service. I mean, it's African American centric, and Better Savannah are these entitled white guys, and we're coming together. We're talking the same talk. We're wanting the same results, and that it's like in the history of Savannah when the Irish came over. The oligarchs worried that the blacks and the Irish would commingle, and to prevent that, they pitted them against each other. And this is the tragedy of not having unity. So we're united closely with ATR, with the Savannian, with Jim Rikus, his product. We are giving hope. I would hope to people that we can get past our differences and actually drive together towards better outcomes. And Kesha's election in 2019, along with the others on city council, was probably the high water mark for me for being here in Savannah for almost 30 years. Now they got the rug pulled out from under them from an autocratic mayor who co-opted, 3 of the 5 people and swung the momentum around. But we're still here. We're still doing it. We're going to keep doing it. And we'll ultimately not just have hope, but we'll have hope and results. And Tiffany, good luck to you in your election. I need you to win because I was a 3rd district commissioner here in Chatham County. So good luck to you.
And Tiffany, while you're giving your comments too, why don't you tell us your website and all of your stuff so people who are watching can contribute too. So add that in your comments.
Well, first off, thank you, Robert and John and Alderwoman Kesha, for allowing me to, as a newcomer, sit in the midst of all of you with all of this knowledge. I've learned a lot. I'm here in Athens, Georgia, so all of these things that I have learned, familiarized myself with, is a blessing, and I'm grateful for it. For ATR, for always accepting me and letting me be on the ramble and my platform here. So, John, thank you.
Sure.
When I become District 3 Commissioner, I'm going to shout you out, John. District 3.
Do good. Win and prosper for us.
Yeah.
That's right. But I'm Tiffany S. Taylor. I can be found on Facebook. My Facebook page is Tiffany for the People, District 3 Commissioner. I have not a website as of yet. It is in the works. If you want to donate, you can donate through my Facebook page. And I'm just really happy to be included. And
did you ever? I'm not sure. Did you do an Act Blue page? You might have that.
I have.
Yeah.
You can go to my Act Blue page.
Yeah, I've been on her behind about an Act Blue page. Let me tell you, John, Jay Jones gets mad at me. Jay said, you be running people like they run for state level. I was like, that's all I know. So get an Act Blue page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can go to my Act Blue page to make contributions as well.
All right. Well, in the next couple of weeks, I think we will have our state senate candidates. Next week we will have oh my goodness, his name is escaping me. He's gonna kill me. Anyway, we'll have our state senate candidates. We'll have and they will be our next couple of weeks. And so definitely tune in for those. And
Well,
so
Derek Mallow. Derek
what's
Mallow.
that?
Isn't that the Derek Mallow?
Right, now see, you messed yourself up now.
Orlando
Scott.
And
My
then
apologies. It's like I'm in the midst. So next Saturday, next Saturday we'll have Orlando Scott. The following week will be Derek Marlowe. Both who are very, very fine gentlemen. Both who I think equally well prepared.
Outcome.
Yeah. So, but we'll definitely want you all to check both of those out. One will come next Saturday and the other the following Saturday. All right. So we appreciate our panelists today. We are going to close out, and thank you all for this discussion. So have a great weekend, and I'm about to go follow Julius and Alderwoman Gibson-Carter over to the ILA Fish Fry. So see you out there. Hopefully, y'all take care.
I like that.